Psychic Frank's. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, there we go. Gently, gently. Psychic Frank's Mystery School. Ta-da! And a very interesting treat here. Uh, we got the cards. I had them all spread out, the Celtic Cross, the Staff of Life, and this is the five elements: space, air, fire, earth, and water. So it's a thing I put together. I don't know how I'm going to work this. I'll probably have to go back and forth to this camera to that camera. Okay, so Psychic Frank's Mystery School. I'm your host. I upload my shows to YouTube. Psychic Frank's Mystery School is my YouTube channel. Just before I left the house, I re-listened. Oh, by the way, thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love the background with this green screen. This is just blows my mind every day. I come in here, it's something new. Hopefully one day I'll walk in here and I'll say, Frank, the phones are working. And I will be very happy. But I'm happy now. Yeah, I love to talk to the people. I know the people would love to talk to me. But anyway, enough about that. So September is where it's going to be very, very intense. Two eclipses and uh, one second while I get these notes out here. Ah, okay, so let's see what we've got going on here. Today's Friday, the 15th of August, 2025. I made a note here. I wrote, he's an ignorant thug. I wonder who I was watching on TV when I was putting that together. Yeah, I said the USA does not know shit from Shinola. Thank you for dumbing down America, W. Bush. George W. Bush. It worked. It took. Didn't need much, but he was a catalyst there. And then, of course, we got the current president who really loves the uneducated. God, okay. Well, let's be grateful for where we are. Not condoning it at all, but definitely be grateful for where we are. And what I wrote here, Libra people, especially early Libra people, you listen to this, Mayor Governor Newsom, Governor Newsom, because you're a Libra. Um, yeah, and I love to get a Libra to do something. They're like a woman has a Libra Sun, Libra Venus, and Mars in Libra something, mostly Sun sign Libra, or a lot of times a lot of planet in Libra. They could put up with a lot. I mean, a husband could cheat. He could do whatever, spend the money, gamble away there, whatever, and they could take a lot. And then finally, the straw on the back of the camel that finally, does the maid comes along and she says, you know what, I'm out of here. So it takes Libra. You got to really put, and getting him, threatening Governor Newsom to, jail, and all that. I think that was the push that got him. But as I said, I'm working on not criticizing so much as inspiring. I want to inspire people, I want to inspire people to get out there. Sometimes Bill Walterman, I think was a cartoonist, said, sometimes I think the surest sign that intelligent life is elsewhere in the universe is that none of it has tried to contact us. Wrong. They're contacting us now. This is like size of a few football fields, and it's an extraterrestrial ship. It's ETs. We're at the. They know what's going on, and higher intelligence knows. One mind knows. Nine knows what's going on, and and um, and they know we're at the brink. There's so many nuclear weapons. We're going to need extraterrestrial help to get out of this mess we're in. So things are going to start happening really. So for Libra people, especially early Libra, as Neptune is Aries for the next few years, be your well balanced self. Convince yourself that change is good. natural, and not fatal. Always upgrading, always upgrading. Libras can suffer from analysis paralysis. I'm astonished with Gavin Newsom, but I'm a bit weary. I'd rather say bewildered because I was in City Hall, very active with the cannabis community when we were getting 215 passed to legalize. We had a picture from not only legalizing cannabis but really making it, a culture thing, and uh, uh, but they were all busy then. But we would go there, in City Hall once a month. They have it. It's on CN camera, city camera, and they have where people like any everyday people can walk into the City Hall there, and there's the supervisors, and then the current mayor sits in the center, and there's microphones, and you could get up and talk for 3 minutes, and then a little bing goes off, and you get and I'd be there, and I'd see Gavin sitting in the mayor sits, and then as soon as the cannabis people was turned to get up there, he would turn around and walk out. Ed Lee did it. London Breed did it. I mean, I was sitting with people on dialysis, so cannabis was, all kinds of miracles that were going on. I was healing all people, was to be facilitating healings for a lot of people. That's how I got my training. That's how I got my warm bodies to practice on, was at the cannabis clubs, reading for roaches. I did that for a decade, I guess. So anyway, boy, it's a bit chilly in here. Excuse me. I have to be totally comfortable or I can't do what I do. And it's a bit chilly in here, but I was prepared and brought a shirt. I bought a shirt, man. I'm doing my Cheech and Chong imitation. That's a nice shirt. Yeah, I got it at the Goodwill up on Haight Street, one of the few Goodwills around. When London Breed was tearing down all these Goodwills and stuff, she never thought of making another one, you know. Anyway, let go of that one. Boy, she was a card carrying, deuce paying with a C word there. Sounds like runt. Um, anyway, thank God she's gone. But now we got this. I was really, I don't know, maybe like Shirley Feeney, Laverne Shirley. Shirley Feeney's balloon never landed. When I heard him say all this stuff about I'm not an insider, creative, that got my antennas going. When he was saying creative and this and that, I had visions of, picking up where London Breed threw us under the bus and with the cannabis movement, the pay to play thing, the whole bit. And, distributing cannabis harm reduction. There was like, a whole lot of stuff we had plans with the cannabis passing, was making it legal was just just something there. But now all what do they call them? Lenny Bruce called them the pot smoking squares. That's what we got for a mayor now. He's a square. He can't think out of the box. As I said, I'm not going to criticize, but man, he could spoil a wet dream. I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed with you, Mayor. You sat in this very chair, and what's going on? What's going on in the world today, and the people don't have a voice, and you never thought about getting the phones hooked up here. You probably didn't want the phones hooked up here because you were afraid of getting an answer. You didn't want answering questions had to do with people asking you about your FBI investigating you and all this other crap. Man, get the phones done here. Get it out of the budget. Give back the money because they're not going to pay for it. And get our phones hooked up now. Give the people a voice. Man, okay, I'm not going to shake it off, Greg. Shake it off. I came in here so cool, calm, and collected, but I got a mission. I'm on a mission, man. I'm on a mission. I've been since smoking pot since the '60s. And then of course, as I said, yeah, before I forget about City Hall now, originally it was the war on poverty, and then thanks to Ed Lee, London Breed, um, it's the war on poverty now is the war on the poor. That's what's happening all in San Jose, all over the place. So, thank you, thank you. There's so much that needs to be done. And yeah, money's important. I'm glad, the money people, money, 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 money. The city hall is bisexual, B-U-Y, you know. They'd vote Charlie Manson in office if they knew there was a buck in it for them. God rest his twisted soul wherever he is. But, yeah, you knew Mayor, whatever your name is. It's like Bewitched. And Dora couldn't remember Darren's name because he pissed her off so much. Yeah, I can't even remember your name anymore. Lori, that's it, Lori something. Okay, well, get the phones hooked up, man. I'm not going to be nice to you anymore. Wake up. Wake up and help us, man. Get the phones hooked up for God's sakes. For Christ almighty. Have mercy on us. Okay. Well, what happened was, okay, we got a lot of time here. I just started. Boy, 20 minutes already zipped by. Okay, I got Gavin Newsom's chart. I want to talk about him if we have time at the end of the show. Uh, okay, the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. It is not that I am so smart, but I stay with the questions much longer. That's what Einstein said. In the pursuit of the truth and beauty, and in a sphere of activity in which we are permitted to remain children all our lives, you never fail until you stop trying. Yeah. Einstein said, I'm enough of an artist to draw freely upon my imagination. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. Get that creativity and imagination. Let's wake up and realize alcohol is deadly. It is deadly. The World Health Organization in 2003 stated it was harmful. A little bit was, but now they said it was good for you, a small dose. Like who drinks a half a glass of wine, But they said a small amount is okay. But they retracted that and say no, now 2025 now zero, nada, no alcohol, any amount of alcohol, and of course they're infusing cannabis and booze, but that's another story. Anything to make a buck. Louise Hay once said, "Making money is easy." Does that statement anger you? Oh, good. Now we have a place to start. And then she'd say, making money is easy. Doing it with integrity is where it gets really tricky. Okay, September 19th, 1982, I was close to death. I'm not going to turn this into a drunk-a-log or anything, but I wasn't only drinking, but I was pilling. I was like, I wanted to die. I didn't want it. It was a long, you got, like Sean Penn said, you got to give it to alcoholics for the endurance, but I just didn't want to be here. And I couldn't even kill myself. So I finally just started to, and I was there. I mean, the doctors told me I'd be gone in a week. And I said, thank God. I was happy. I was actually feeling very, very happy. And then I got up in the middle of the night to go in the kitchen for a glass of water. And I was on Cathedral Hill, and I looked out over the dark sea. It was very early in the morning. It must have been like 3 in the morning. And the stars were all bright. It was a clear night, no fog. And then all of a sudden I saw this twinkling in the corner, the left-hand corner. And I said, what's that all about? And the next thing you know, I got sucked up out of my crown chakra. I had this total out-of-body experience. They call it near-death experiences. I think I actually died, and I talked to one mind, and they told me I could, and I came back to finish what I came here for. But this book right here is called One Mind by Dr. Larry Dossey. Dr. MD, Dr. Larry Dossey. And when I read this book, it came out, let me see, in, bear with me here, 2013. I was like, finally, somebody knows what I'm doing. And then I'm rereading this now because I'm not the person I was in 2013 when I first read this. And he talks about one mind, and this non-local mind. The ultimate argument for one mind, however, is the non-locality of consciousness. We will explore the meaning of this term in pages that follow. This is just the introduction of the book. But briefly, this is Colin. Individual minds turn out to be not just individuals. They are not confined to localized to specific points in space, such as brains and bodies, nor to specific points in time. That's why when I'm doing a reading, I can see the past, the present, and the future, such as such as the present. Minds rather are non-local with respect to space and time. This means that the separateness of minds is an illusion because individual minds cannot be put in a box or brain and walled off from one another. In some sense, all minds come together to form a single mind. Throughout history, many individuals, including eminent scientists, have glimpsed this fact. This includes Nobel physicist Edwin Schlesinger or something, who proclaimed there is only one mind, and the distinguished physicist David Bohm, who asserted deep down the consciousness of mankind is one. I later coined the term non-local mind in '89 in my book Recovering the Soul to express what I believe is the spatiality and temporal aspect of the spatiality and temporal infinite aspect of our consciousness. We're infinite beings. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. Non-local mind resembles the age-old concept of the soul, as we will see. Then he talks about people. This explains exactly where I was. He sensed that we are losing our way. He was not afraid to say he believed that the limitations of our mind constitute a kind of planetary emergency. As he put it, we need to know more. Um, we know now that we cannot do this any longer, searching our minds, for there is not enough there to search. We need science, more and better science, not for its technology, not for its leisure, not even for better health, for longevity, but for the hope of wisdom, which is our kind of culture must acquire for its survival. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Avoiding extinction, the threatening concept of our society does not wish to face. Hanging. Well, I talked this about our last show about we all know what's going. They may not be as dramatic as nuclear horror, but they eventually equal deadly. They involve gradual degradation and deterioration of our world because the way we choose. That's what's happening now. We have the regime in power now, a Nazi regime in power that is degrading and deteriorating of our world because the way we choose to behave, embedded is an unremitting greed, paralysis of will, and the clouding of vision, and a willful ignorance toward the rigorous kinds of science that Thomas cherished. As a people, we seem to be seriously impaired, as if we suffered a cultural stroke that has damaged the higher centers of our control. Okay, now here on page 58 is what the out of body experience I want to talk about. Well, I still have time here because I want to definitely get to the cards. What did I say? 50 something here, 57, 58. 1 second. Okay, one magic moment here. Oh no, that was it. Okay. Okay, here we are. The concept of a source, a soul, of a higher self that often form part of the near-death experience is an affirmation of the one mind. As Jung put it, quote unquote, in addition to our immediate consciousness, which is of a thoroughly personal nature, there exists a second psychic system of a collective, universal, and impersonal nature, which is identical to all individuals. In our materialistic culture, we believe in a soul that survives physical death is often considered a cow. We believe in our material culture, the belief in a soul that survives physical death is often considered a cowardly comfort for those who fear death and annihilation. But there are two major reasons. Dig that, because that's what Western medicine is now. They believe hope is cruel. But there are two major reasons to look beyond this criticism. Yeah, what he talks about here about um, uh, it was talking about being an out of body experience. He says it was just as overwhelming. It was like all the love you've ever wanted. It was the kind of love that cures, heals, regenerates, and then the light turned into an exquisitely gorgeous mandala of human souls. Benedict, this is the near-death experience I was telling you about. Benedict felt that all his negative thoughts and cynical attitudes about his fellow human beings giving way toward the view that was equally hopeful and positive. He conversed with the great light. That's what I did, man. He rode the system of consciousness through the galaxy and glimpsed the entire universe. He felt he was pre created before the Big Bang. His consciousness expanded into infinity. He revealed to him that there was no death, only immortality, and his reassurance of the entire process then reversed itself when he returned to his body. He talks about, they talk on about, uh, people like these experiences who like to say these experiences are the proof that consciousness can exist outside the brain, like a soul that lives after death. And he says part of this thing is though when you return, the cruelty exists. Let me see. He says, um, and well, I can't find the exact page there, but the whole thing is these people that go on and on explaining this amazing. Oh, here it is. I folded the page, and here I am. Fun. I get so excited, man. Dig where you are, man. Yeah. Okay. Here's the page I was looking for. Yeah, and I wrote here, I've forgotten more than you will ever know. Yeah, yeah. A lot of times there are people who try and lay some shit on me, and I look at them and I say, man, I don't say it to their face, but that's my inner dialogue. Okay, this sense of gratitude abounds for fruits and vegetables as well as meats who had given their lives to my son. Yeah, he's talking about the deep sense of love that invariably accompanies the sense of unity. It's not restricted to those in life, but the unconditionally generalized to all creation. Following her near-death experience from an almost fatal laboratory accident, a young female researcher described a distinctive and immediate change in my behavior, an inability to kill even the smallest creatures, scooping up ants and taking them into the garden. This is my life. Gratitude abounds for fruits and vegetables as well as meats who has given their lives for subsistence. I always talk to my food. The sense of, and I never eat meat, the sense of access to all knowledge is frequent, accompanied by the experience of omniscience, the abolition of boundaries within knowledge. As one healthy individual described his near-death experience, like, I knew all things, past, present, and future, and I was enlightened to origins, unity, and purpose, though not a word was spoken. It's all telepathic, telepathy. I immediately had knowledge about the natural world of how everything worked together, like going to sleep and not knowing about mechanics, and waking up and knowing in detail how all engines work. I experienced a unity with everything and understood everything. During a near death experience, that occurred spontaneously during meditation, another man was shown how all knowledge is available. He reported that centuries accumulated knowledge, history, science, architecture, and its limitedness of use it. But he would see this knowledge is available to you when you come here. But this was also shown that he would not retain the knowledge he had been given when he returned. A woman reported reams of information that seemed to be exploding in my brain like an empty library, suddenly being realized in the oneness of it all. See, but the trick, yeah, but then they said, I came back, of course, uh, but I knew. To this day, I'm still analyzing what and reliving that experience because I was talking to the big Kahuna in all humility there. Okay, shake that off now. So I got the cards out. Oh yeah, we got plenty of time now. I just want to get to this here because this is a wonderful book by a Japanese cat about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The show I did on this book got 197 views. Thank you, YouTube viewers. And but I'm not doing it. I watch Michael Cohen all the time, the guy that came out of jail, the lawyer for the Trump thing, and he always starts his show saying, "I want to get a million of you." He's such a New York Jew, it's just that Jewish people. It's just the way it is. I'm not anti-Semitic, but yeah, get that meter running. The meter's never off, man. Uh, anyway, so he talks here about the what's going on now with Putin and Trump, and they want to go to Um, I know people are going to think I'm a Jew hater. I can't. My heart is pure. Anyway, I don't hate anyone. But I grew up in New York City. My mother and all of my adopted mother and all of her Italian girlfriends. We all had kids the same age, and every year we pile in the car, squeeze in the big Oldsmobile, and we go to Jewtown, the garment district, and we buy a lot of clothes, a lot of good clothes that you could get at Sears, Saks Fifth Avenue. You get them had for nothing, in the garment district if you knew, and you could haggle, and it was, but there was no racism there, It was just, it's people's nature, to so anyway, what's going on now is they're talking about what Dr. Martin Luther King called an obnoxious peace. What they're talking about, Putin and the Mango Mussolini there, Donald, they're talking about when peace becomes obnoxious. See, because there was all this stuff going on in Selma about Autherine. Isn't that a beautiful name? Autherine. Autherine Lucy became the first black student to attend classes at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And as I said, the minute she arrived, there was 3 months of helter skelter. I mean, the whites weren't having any of it, and finally, they got her out of there. They took her out, got her out of there. The local newspaper ran the headline that read, "Things are quiet in Tuscaloosa today. There is peace in the campus of the University of Alabama." There is peace, but what kind of peace was the paper talking about? Peace for whom and at what cost? On March 18th, just 1 month later, gave a sermon in response to this incident titled "When Peace Becomes Obnoxious." In the sermon, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said the peace of the newspapers described was not a real peace. He said this is the peace that is the type, quote unquote, of peace that men of goodwill hate. It is the type of peace that is obnoxious. It is the type of peace that stinks in the nostrils of the Almighty God. Strong words from a man who would go on to win the Nobel Peace Prize. But when Dr. King spoke of, quote unquote, peace boiled down to stagnant complacency and deadening passivity, he was talking about what peace educator John Galton calls negative peace. Hey, Oprah Winfrey, get this book on your show. Get this book on, people, you say jump and people say how high. Get this book on your reading list. What are you afraid? It's like I should be afraid. Yeah, I could see, because I'm so low down on the totem pole, you can't fall off the floor. But you're out there. Are you afraid? Are you afraid to put this on? I dare you. I dare you. I Colbert. Anybody who's out there in that billionaire stratosphere who rules the media, who allows all this obnoxious stuff to go on. If you just got natural antenna TV, which I know you're watching me, you don't, but it's available. You could turn off that cable and get it on if you wanted. You'll see, just to experiment, you'd see how you can't watch 10 minutes of anything without having crippled kids, uh, just pity, the most hideous thing, deformed children in your face. These are horrible things. Yeah, and we should have a government that doesn't even need our help, that our taxes pay for all this stuff. Socialized medicine, for instance, but we don't have that. So anyway, this deadening passivity, Dr. King spoke of boiled down stagnant complicity, a deadening passivity. He was talking about what peace educator called negative peace. Yeah, oftentimes our society, we think of peace as calm, quiet, and serene. We conjure up images of sunset on a tropical beach, meditating in the forest, going to a concert in Golden Gate Park, getting drunk, eating good food, ignoring kids are starving and dying all over the world. We can make San Francisco the empathetic leader, but no, this lacks imagination. Spoiled brat, rich kid. Anyway, shake it off, man. Shake it off. Sit with me. I want somebody from City Hall. I did have a supervisor. I forget his name. Big guy, third world guy. Um, Middle Eastern, and he buzzed my buzzer. But then everybody was buzzing my buzzer. I live in Hay Valley. I can't have people parading up and down there. And he said, and he introduced himself, and he was running. But so many people introduced and told me and introduced themselves on the intercom and tell me their money for City Hall or something. And I did that once, and I regretted it. Not regret it, but I realized I can't do this anymore. But anyway, I had him. He was so close, I didn't buzz him up. Okay, let's do the cards. Let's do the cards. And this is, let's see, okay, one mind. One mind, thank you. Before I turned on the camera, I totally, oh, we got plenty of time. Oh, yeah, we're doing good. Yeah. Okay, we'll have time after this. I could do some other stuff. Okay, let's see what we got here. Oh, great one mind. Hail, hail, one mind. What do my viewers need to know? So, right here. Oh, we got the strife card. See that? The five of wands. And basically means do nothing. On the outward thing, do exactly what you got to do to survive. And I think this is I'm getting a psychic message. Do nothing to that's going to make that doesn't to make it better right now. What I'm saying is do nothing, but do what you have to do. And what you have to do is get out there. We have to get out. I mean, go to anything, if in this city, I live a few blocks away from City Hall, so I'll be out a lot more. But for the most part, it's what let me see. This sometimes I get the feeling and the words just don't come. But what we hear now is the five. Fives are always a test. We're a five life path. We're all about freedom. And what she's saying here, this is that's seven. I went past the page. Sit back, watch the action unfold around you, and relax. The five, that's what Malcolm Nance was saying when the National Guard was down in LA. He said, play music, bring them pizzas, bring them burritos. And that's what the people did. They were like, not spitting in their face or anything, but just, buddying with them. Say, hey, big boy, you want to dance? Yeah, you want to dance with me? The Five of Wands cautions restraint. The internal voice you hear may not be your intuition talking. Instead, it could be past trauma, fear, internalizing messages from family and society. The solar flares that are coming off of the sun have happened in thousands of years. It's like this conjunction that's going to peak next year, spring and summer of next year, between Saturn and Neptune, structure and spirituality. I think it'd be 2039 when Neptune leaves Aries. But they're gonna go retrograde. They're gonna go retrograde, giving us like Uranus will back up on the 9th of September, the first Friday of September, when I'll be here in the studio, September Friday, September 7th. Uranus on the 6th will go retrograde and then backs up into Taurus for a couple of months, and then Saturn and Neptune follow. Neptune is about to go retrograde. They're going from Aries back to Pisces. So we're going to have time to go back and rehash a lot of things. There's no missed opportunities. Years ago, there was this astrologer I met at the National Council of Geocosmic Research. And he was a great astrologer, and I was so impressed with him. I studied with him for a year or so. Not every like 6 months I would take a class with him because it was $150 an hour. But he was good. I learned a lot from him, and he used to work at suicide prevention in Oakland, Berkeley, and He's since moved to New Mexico, and he said when he was doing answered the phone and somebody was going to kill themselves, and they were trying to tell him put down the gun, put the pills down, get off the ledge. He'd say, "What's your birthday? When were you born?" And he was such a good astrologer, he could calculate a chart in his head like that. And he always said it was a missed opportunity. Missed opportunities are very, very rare, and when they happen, you really want to kill yourself, but if you don't, there'll be I think I don't believe in limited opportunities. That's another story. So okay, let's get back to the cards here and see what we got crossing. The magician. The magician. Beautiful. It's a good card to meditate on, especially if you're not feeling, you have something with your health. Take this card out of your deck, the Rider-Waite deck, and just prop it on in front of something in front of you. And when you're drinking your morning cup of water or whatever, um, um, that's a beautiful thing. Um, and this is a book by your tarot guide. I got shelves of books on the tarot. A shelf, my shelf, because I used to have astrology books, but I gave them all away. Uh, as I said, I forgot more about astrology than most people know. No, I don't think so much about astrology, but as I said, I'm not being a wise ass when I say that, but it's not only me. There's a lot of people that have had these near or having them. As I said, that's why if you or yourself or someone who's these are things you don't tell your doctor. The doctor I had for 30 years, when I finally felt comfortable with him and told him when his partner died, and I mentioned something only a psychic would know, he had me tested for syphilis. Well, he's not my doctor anymore. I took that. I should have said, I should have asked you if did you test yourself? But I didn't go there. I didn't want to. I didn't, there's no mud on the high road. And besides, I'm a healer. I was trying to help him. People have written books about me on being a charlatan. So I'm used to people with. I'm a skeptic myself. Okay, the magician teaches us that we hold the power to shift our reality by the force of our will. With it, man could do as he will, but he can't will as he will. Oh yeah, that was Einstein's favorite quote. Our own personal magic. When this card comes up, okay, the magician teaches us that we hold the power to shift our reality by the force of our will, our own personal magic. When this card comes up in a reading, it is an indication that you have more freedom, more ability than you may think to change your situation. Step into your power. Accept that you can move mountains with your magic. Next year is a universal 1 year. 2026 reduced to one digit is one. We are currently in the middle of year nine. Nine is a humanitarian year. And what this administration is doing is every single thing, every iota of everything you should be doing. It's a year where you want to buy the world a Coke. I like that saying, instead, we're doing everything. But that just shows me that before I left the house today, I was listening once again to Pam Gregory, what she had to say about. She has this. You could YouTube it up yourself, Pam Gregory, and what she had to say about the Saturn Neptune conjunction and rarity is potency. And she was talking about Pluto. When Pluto goes out of bounds, like planets do, uh, their gifts. Their gifts are. One second. Their gifts are in action. The gifts of that planet are in action. And what's going on with Pluto now, when goes out of bounds to the north, what it's doing is tyrants, tyranny, inequality, slavery, all this horrible stuff we're dealing with now. Uh, and then when it goes below, right out of bounds below the equator, they call it the belt, that's when we get all the things that we want. I wrote them all down, but peace, non denuclearization, get rid of how we're going to I believe that we're going to get extraterrestrial help for that. Yeah, I like this spiritual transmutation to change in form and appearance, structure, or the nature of something. It can be an alchemical shift that begins on the inside. We eventually take on a different form on the outside. I knew for years my liver, when I became totally liver conscious, I knew that tea was just as bad as coffee for caffeine for people with having challenges with their liver, but yet I needed that buzz, I needed that little kick, and then I finally realized this with all that's going on now with the solar flares and all the planetary actions, how it's affecting me, that I was messing with your what's it called, this inner clock we have. It's got like 18 few syllables there, ascetic or something, and it knows exactly when you're going to wake up, when you're going to have a bowel movement, when you need to eat, when you and caffeine and alcohol and all these other things. Cannabis, no side effect with there, but and that's why I believe my power. I feel more empowered. It's a nice way of putting it. Our foundation here now. Okay. Our foundation here, well, that's bloody. Look at that. Yeah, look at this nine. We're in a 9 year, and this is right next to it. Let's see. Let's put this like this. See, the nine of wands. Oh, okay. The nine of wands. The guy's got the bandage. He's got a psychic wound. He's protect what's yours and do some. You might have to do some battle. And I believe nonviolent, but you have to be five is fire, creativity, and also use the dream state. This is make you can't go to the dream state to schools at night with your blackboard all scribbled up with da, 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 da. Release today. The throat chakra rules all the chakras. I release today. I surround yourself with the love and light of the ultimate one mind, and then you'd be surprised. I usually like take one thing into the dream state with you, and for the most part, I just leave it wide open. Where we're coming from, wow. See, I'm already seeing this is already thanks to the. I'm not condoning this atrocity, what we're going through right now, but thank God for this now because people are really being friendly to each other now because we're realizing, holy shit, we've got the inmates are totally running the asylum. I mean, we got this this criminal thug, rapist, convicted child molester, rapes little girls. As the president of this is like our forefathers must be spinning around in their graves. Well, back in the colonial times, if you were, 16 years old, 15, 16-year old, you were a mother. This whole thing where, but that's a whole nother topic, about, but I'm just saying, that was then, this was now. It just flashed into my mind there. But anyway, but we're finally realizing, I don't think colonial times were anything like, people didn't live long then. The lifespan was 30, 30, 40. If you lived to be 50s, you were an old person, So, this whole thing, I guess you had to procreate early when the guys are telling me when lifespans, but then we got older and we got morally responsible. We realized it was, you know, but lifespans are not long anymore. We will not live. Our children will not live longer. What's ahead for us now is like we got to hit them where it hurts. The only way you can hurt a rich person is make them a poor person. We're going to have to stop funding these people. There's a hard things to do. I want to get a prayer circle back in the mystery school when it was in its peak. It was up on Vallejo in San Francisco. And once a month, or we would have the best psychics in the Bay Area, and everyday people around who were advanced in this, because you can't have people interrupting in the middle of this. That's amazing. And then people would put pictures of their sick person or whatever in the middle center of this. And oh, it was an amazing. I would love to facilitate a prayer circle and let's get some healing energy done. There's so much that can happen, especially with Jupiter and Venus conjunct in Cancer now in September, and that happening right now. Jupiter for the whole year now. We're only a few months into Jupiter and Cancer. Alternative healings now. The science I was telling you about now that totally thinks people like me are. It's so many healers now who are gifted Reiki people. I don't call what I do. I know Reiki people want nothing to do with me, but it's similar. It's all healing energy. I remember when I first started doing this stuff, when I had my cards made up. I found one of them the other day. I was cleaning, a book fell out of the top bookshelf and a card fell out. And I said, wow, this is old. This is when I first had my first card made up, and it had psychic. Now, it wasn't Psychic Frank, that it had my name and phone number, and it said transformational guidance and healing. And that's because I had just come off of this total transformation. I had transformed so much in 1982, September 19th. I actually thought I was a walk in. But then, as I said, the rehab said I had to go to AA for a year, which I did. I went actually 2 years because I started getting into the 13th step. But then I realized I wasn't going to join any kind of cult. But I'm telling you, if you quit drinking, go to the step meetings, work those steps, character defects. Because a lot of people, I know people now are dying, and they never worked on their character defects. It's forgiving the past, channeling anger in the right way. I learned so much. I'm sure you could get these, get those steps are so important. They say if you work those 12 steps, you'll have a spiritual experience. Well, I did it the other way around. I had my total out of body experience, and then when I was sober. Yeah, for like a good, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. Even when I left the program, I didn't drink or smoke pot or anything. But then, as I said, I was doing stupid things just as much as I was doing it when I was a pothead. So I started smoking pot again because I always knew marijuana is beautiful. Uh, but now, as I said, juice heads, juice heads, man. Yeah, have fun now, 'cause, through the teeth, over the gums. Look out, liver, here it comes. Yeah, yeah. When your liver starts to go, honey, you'll be singing a different tune. Okay, what we're marinating in now is get that kid in you. That kid that, oh, there's this wonderful thing in this other book, but we don't have time it now. It's called The Mind Body Experience, where he talks about how this inner person in you was killed, fear of success, changes. Oh, there's so much I want to get to. Maybe at the end of this reading, but he talks about how from the gate, we're taught to, for fear of being conceited. We are taught to hide our personal excellence and to accept compliments only reluctantly. Although these cultural mandates to conceal our gifts and brush aside praise and intended to prevent an image of conceit, they compel us to learn a kind of false humility that does not serve us well in our relationships or in sustaining wellness. This chapter of office practices to counter the cultural bias of the root of this problem. Drawing for this chapter on my work with celebrities, billionaires, and world leaders, I will share with you what I have learned about how cultural collectivism punishes individual excellence. I believe lack of understanding in the anthropology underlining our tribal animations is a primary reason why many highly accomplished people co-author their own self-destruction after they have achieved their desired goals. Our culture determines the limits of acceptance and of individual achievements in wealth, health, and love. The three components of abundance, they improve consequences for violating those limits and inflicting wounds that abandon, betrayal, and shame. The inflicting the wounds of abandonment, betrayal, and shame, and he teach how they go in our lives. So you look in the mirror in the morning, you're putting your act together. So look in the mirror and go, "You the man, Frank. You the man." Give myself a wink. The other day, I was walking by the mirror and I saw, I go, "How you doing, guy?" So what we're marinating in now is before enlightenment, chop wood, carry the water. Oh, what we're marinating in now is yeah. Here's the thing: play with your animals. Hugabug, Princess Hugabug. That's my parents' real name. Gabby Hayes, Princess Hugabug. Uh, I just thinking of the what's the name? The actress from who sang that song, Princess Hugabug, in that movie about the guy who dies. Robert Downey Jr. dies and then comes into the body of someone else. It's a great movie. Yeah, yeah. Now is when your soul leisure. Everybody's grateful at a banquet is the message I'm getting. Now is when your soul really, really needs you, because fear is it's sick. It really is. Not a good way. I know kids think sick is a good word now, but fear, man, it strips our stomach lining. It pulls, makes you go bald. Because when you tighten your head, you're cutting off the blood from your hair. It's just, well, laughter will put your immune system in order. Hugging a tree, hugging a cat, fostering cats and dogs now with all the fires going around. We got to start getting some people in power now that are more conscious and not just money, money. Yeah, money's key now, but as I said, see how these kids, all these billions and how many millions of dollars are coming into. Of course, they're at least they're having these events close to the ocean. At least they're not making the neighborhood suffer. But the fact is I would love these events to be healers from all over the planet. The cannabis, no alcohol, but cannabis. Yeah, cannabis fairs. Let's have cannabis fairs again. But of course, the money came in again, and they were having this thing in Oakland where all the kids, young people were going to, and I didn't go there, but they were telling me all these booths where people were coming out of the woodwork putting cannabis in everything from edibles to alcoholic beverages. I don't think you should, if, have the experience of mixing alcohol, dulls your senses, cannabis enhances your sensitivity. What we're fearing now, hope and fearing now, is love. We all just want to be loved, and uh, and not be taken hostages. And once again, now back in when I was coming up in the 50s and 60s, the dream, you could go on vacation. You could have one job, one family, one job, buy a house, buy a new car every 4 years. But then Ronald Reagan came along. Gavin Newsom, you're not going to be president of the United States. It's going to be OAC, Alexandria or Ortega Cortez, and hopefully as a and maybe she'll have Hakeem Jeffries as vice president. But I think you're in for a rude awakening, Gavin Newsom, if you think you're going to be president, man. Because it's got a lot more shit's going to go down from now until the summer and spring of summer of next year, where all these changes come in. So as I said, there's a lot more damage this son of a bitch Donald Trump can do. Son of a Nazi bitch, excuse me. I want to be accurate there. Final outcome is there's hope. The star card. What a beautiful way to end the session. There's the star card. I know what it means, but I like this woman. She says a lot of, I like the way she puts it. So it's card number 15, 16, 17. I knew that. Okay, the 15, 16, 17. It comes right before the moon. 18 is the moon. The star teaches us that there is always hope. Um, in the vastness of the universe, against, here we go. The star teaches us that there is always hope. In the vastness of the universe, against all odds, we exist here on a planet with the exact right conditions for conscious life to form, traveling around a star on one of the swirling arms of our galaxy. A life force runs through our existence, eternal, unbroken, carrying us through the past to here and into the future of tomorrow, guided by a shining star. Channeled that force to make it visible for others. Modeling hope and kindness can take many different forms. You might excel at speaking to a crowd, volunteering in a large group environment, or holding a friend's hand in silence while they cry. Find what works for you. Being of service shouldn't be draining. It should be fulfilling. If you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Do you hear that? Whatever you offer it freely, happily, and without expectations. You can't find a different, if you can't find a different offering. The star ushers in a time of promise. Dream big in terms of your development as a spiritual being having a human experience. You have more to offer the world than you could possibly imagine, and the world will return the favor. Consider how you contribute to the greater good of this, an excellent time to increase the impact of your good deeds. This is an excellent time to increase the impact of your good deeds. Beautiful. And as I said, while I'm reading this, I'm seeing this gigantic extraterrestrial saucer. It's not a flying saucer. It is, I believe it's huge because there's going to be a big evacuation. They're going human life is going to have to be taken out the planet Earth and put in in these. I believe the inside of that looks like an asteroid or some kind of a meteor is actually like a really cool place you want to be. But I think they're only going to take the purest of the hearts. Um, I don't know how it's going to happen. I think if you start working on your inner self just because your inner gut is telling you, quit eating meat. Meat is murder. You know, cow milk is for baby cows. It was never meant for human consumption. The dairy industry, there's going to be a lot of industries now that are going to go by the wayside, you know. Oh, yeah, here's what we got as we finish up here now. But I'm telling you, in your dream now, in your meditations, be open to higher intelligence. This is the book by the word I had, The Mind Body Code by Dr. Mario Martinez, again, 2013. Here we have, again, protect what's ours now. To do it creatively, do it fire with the fire of creativity. Seven, wisdom comes through emotional pain now. Remind people victims don't heal. This is happening for us, not to us. Information's coming in now on how to help the children. In this city alone, San Francisco, we've got families living in tents. And we've got Nero as a mayor who's fiddling. You know, let's get the liquor industry. No, let's kill the liquor industry along with the gun industry. let's let's start getting psychedelicized. Have you been experienced? Well, I have. Queen of Pentacles now. Your money, it's an energy now, and it smells like, as I said, people don't know the difference between shit and shinola anymore. Used to be people did. They wouldn't get involved with this crap. The big, gays in the 50s, uh, being gay in the 50s was communist. People were killing them. People were killing gays. In the 60s, too. That's why, as I said in my last show, one of my last shows about, I was watching Black History Month. Oh, it was Gay Month in June, and they had the Stonewall. I was hanging out around the corner of the Stonewall when that I wasn't in that bar, but I was in that bar other times. That's where I learned how to dance. Um, I was 17, 18. Yeah, I just graduated high school in '67, and 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 I remember when I first went to my first game, or the guy who was doing the Stonewall thing on PBS was talking about how it was like the black people had the church and we had the gay bar. I remember going to my first gay bar on Long Island, and it was like all of a sudden it was like the love, the friendliness. It was like, wow. Besides this, it was this camaraderie, and that's how San Francisco was too. Back, when I got here in '72, it was different, and everything closed real early. Oh yeah, this was the Esquire magazine from a few months ago, Charles P. Pierce, and he talks about a 5-4 margin. Roberts and his right-leaning colleagues, talking about the Supreme Court colleagues, decided that Dr. King's dream had been fulfilled. By sheer coincidence, I'm sure, several states had voting rights restrictions. So where we are with the voting right restrictions now, we can thank Justice Roberts. So if we think that this Supreme Court is going to undo, because if you read this, it's from Esquire magazine from a few months ago. I don't get it, but somebody put it in the lobby of my building, and when they're throwing things away, and I get it. This was the summer 2025. It's got Bono on the cover, and he talks about in 1980. Okay, uh, the preclearance procedures, Section 4B and 5 of the VRA, Voters' Rights Act, were targeted of conservative justice jurors most from the moment the link of conservative justices almost from the moment the link on Johnson's signature was dried. President Johnson we're talking about. Usually this involved restricting the periodic reauthorization of the act. One of the young lawyers who showed up in Washington in 1980 and threw himself into the conservative assault of the Voters' Rights Act that Lyndon Johnson produced was named John Roberts. In April 1980, the Supreme Court surprised everyone by ruling in favor of the Mobile, Alabama, demanding that purposefully discriminating denial be proven before the VRA Voters' Rights Act was clearly was engaged. The dissent, Justice Thurgood Marshall clearly saw that was coming down the road. A plurality of the court concludes that in the absence of proof of intentional discrimination by the state, the right to vote provides the politically powerless with nothing more than the right to cast meaningless ballots, wrote Marshall. So this thing going on now with the gerrymandering, this is Justice Roberts, man. We got the head of the Supreme Court. Real heavy doo-doo, as Nancy Pelosi would say. I love you, Nancy. Uh, and we got to start condemning Ronald Reagan. Now, start saying the name Ronald Reagan and start praising that motherfucker, man. I mean, excuse my language, but we got airports with that son of a bitch's name on it. And he's the reason you're working 5 jobs and can't take a vacation and are barely hanging on. It's Ronald Reagan. Let's get somebody out there who will say his name. Gavin's never going to say it. AOC will. Just Hakeem will. So, okay, we got, just because, as I said, we're in a really good spot because I see from 26, 27 on up, it's like, everything's got coming up roses. Everything. Okay, I love you. I love you. I love you. Love me by not putting me on a pedestal. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And I got nothing but love in my heart for every living, sentient, feeling, thinking being on this planet, and I believe there's hope. I love you. I'll be back the 1st of August, September rather, the first and the third Fridays of 1 o'clock. I'm here. Thank you, Bayvac. Thank you, Clay, Juvan, Sarah, everybody behind these doors. Takes a whole lot of people to get me in this chair. And let's get the phones hooked up now. Enough of this shit, Mr. Laurie. Come on. Man up and do what's right for the. I mean, let's make San Francisco what it was, what it was in the 60s, where people were coming for, not to. Oh, you know what I mean. Okay. Namaste. Let's get the phones hooked up. And if you're one of these totally wealthy people, don't get on the phone and talk to Bayvac about what you could donate. Maybe there's got to be a way we could get the phones going on now, not just for me, but for all the other producers here. Listen to me. I almost sound like I'm whining. Okay, I love you. Namaste. Okay, there's my email address. psychicfrank11@gmail.com, Psychic Frank's Mystery Schools, my YouTube channel. And if you could see me on demand, if you go to SF Commons TV schedule, Saturday, 7:30, channel 29. I love you. Bye. Okay, now we go over here. This is doable.